Alan Watts had a way of saying things that didn't just make you think, they made you stop. Not because the ideas were complicated, but because they were simple in a way that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. His message: you are already complete. You don't need to earn your existence. You don't have to chase some distant goal to finally deserve peace. The more you let go of that chase, the more life begins to give you naturally, effortlessly, and without resistance. This is the core of Watts' philosophy, the illusion.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
That something is missing is the biggest lie we tell ourselves. The constant striving, the need for validation, the belief that fulfillment lies just ahead if we work hard enough or wait long enough, it's all noise. And the only way to see through it is to stop trying to control it. Watts described this obsession with a rival, the belief that happiness exists at the end of a journey, as one of the great traps of the human mind. Life, he argued, is not a pursuit. It's not a task. It's not a straight line leading to some final destination. Life is musical. It's flowing. It unfolds like a song, not for the final note, but for the rhythm, the melody, the movement itself. And the moment you try to grip it too tightly, you lose it. What's wild is that this philosophy goes completely against what most of us are taught. You're told to set goals, build strategies, grind harder. You're told that if you don't push, you won't make it. But Watts flips that narrative on its head. He says that the very act of grasping creates the illusion of lack. That in trying to get somewhere, you confirm the belief that you're not already there. And so, he encourages the opposite. Let go. Surrender, not in defeat, but in trust. Trust that you are already whole. Trust that the present moment contains everything you need. Because when you stop acting out of scarcity and start acting from a place of inner abundance, the world responds in kind. It's not a trick. It's not wishful thinking. It's alignment. Watts speaks to the idea of acting as if, but not in the sense of pretending. He means acting as if the qualities you seek, peace, joy, abundance, are already present within you. Not waiting for the external world to confirm it first. Because when you move from that place of knowing, your external world begins to mirror it. Not immediately, not always in the way you expect, but consistently and truthfully. The power in this isn't conceptual, it's energetic. It's about the frequency you're living from. And that frequency shifts the way you interpret reality. It shifts how people respond to you. It shifts the opportunities you notice, the doors that open, the things you attract. Not because you forced them, but because you stopped resisting the flow. Watts used the metaphor of water often. He said the river doesn't fight its direction. It bends, it moves, it adjusts, but it never resists. It never strains. And yet, it shapes everything in its path. That's the power of surrender. That's the power of trusting life's rhythm instead of forcing your own timeline. One of his most powerful points is that surrender isn't passive. It's not apathy. It's not giving up on goals. It's acting from a grounded sense of enoughness. It's knowing that you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to achieve your way into worthiness. And when that belief drops in, when it's not just an idea but a felt truth, life starts to shift. He challenges the mind's obsession with lack. The constant scanning for what's missing, what's not yet done, what hasn't yet arrived. The mind is a brilliant tool, but it's addicted to incompletion. It thrives on the illusion that there's always something else to chase. Watts cuts through that and says, you can choose to step out of that loop. You can choose to act from the place where nothing is missing. That shift isn't loud. It doesn't always look dramatic, but it changes everything. Because when you stop needing things to happen in order to feel okay, you stop blocking their arrival. When you stop clinging to outcomes, you stop pushing them away. It's paradoxical, but it's true. The less you need something, the more room there is for it to appear. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped resisting. This is the heart of Watts' insight. Manifestation, success, peace, none of it comes from gripping tightly. It comes from loosening your grip, from trusting that the same intelligence that brought you here can carry you forward. Not on your terms, maybe, but in alignment with a deeper order. Watts doesn't deny that we live in a world of change, challenge, and desire. But he reminds us that our relationship to those things is optional. You can pursue goals without believing they will complete you. You can dream big without believing the present moment is lacking. You can want things while knowing that who you are, right now, is already enough. That kind of inner posture, confident, calm, rooted, changes how you move. You don't chase. You invite. You don't cling. You allow. You stop operating from anxiety and start operating from alignment. And what happens when you do that? Life meets you differently. Watts calls it a symphony. Not because it's perfect or predictable, but because it moves in rhythm. And when you listen to that rhythm, when you dance with it instead of fighting it, you discover that what you were chasing outside was already echoing inside. The external world mirrors the inner one. Always has, always will. And the reason most people struggle to change the outside is because they're still waiting for proof before they believe. But Watts flips it. He says, believe first. Embody the thing. Trust that you are already what you seek. And let the world catch up. Because it will. But only if you stop needing it to. This is not about pretending things are fine when they're not. It's about remembering that your identity, your worth, your peace, none of that is up for debate. It's not up for negotiation. It's not conditional. It's intrinsic. That's the kind of freedom Watts speaks about. The kind that doesn't come from success or control, but from letting go of the illusion that you need either one to be whole. So, when he says the more you let go, the more life gives you, he means that literally. Let go of the chase, and life shows up. Let go of resistance, and flow returns. Let go of the belief that you're not there yet, and suddenly, you are. Let us know your thoughts. What part of Alan Watts' philosophy resonates most with you? Drop a comment, share this with someone who needs a reminder that they're already enough, and subscribe if you want more grounded perspectives like this rooted in truth, not noise. This idea that life gives more when you let go isn't just a nice thought. It's a deep, direct challenge to the way most of us have been taught to live. Because for a long time, you've probably been told the opposite. That control is strength. That effort equals value. That life rewards those who grip tightly, aim sharply, and never stop pushing. But Alan Watts didn't buy into that. He said the grip itself is the problem. That the very energy of grasping, of chasing, striving, obsessing creates tension not only in your mind, but in your entire experience of life. And when you let go, when you release that grip, you're not giving up your power. You're reclaiming it. Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing from a different place. A quieter place. One that isn't frantic, insecure, or compensating for some imagined lack. Watts pointed out, over and over, that our suffering doesn't come from events. It comes from resistance to them. From the story we tell ourselves that this shouldn't be happening, or I'm not enough until I fix this, or I'll be okay once things look different. But if you stop and really feel into what he's saying, the truth is disarming. You already are okay. And not in a superficial, it's all good kind of way. In a foundational, can't be taken from you kind of way. The peace you're chasing isn't on the other side of success. It's beneath the chase itself. That's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to manipulate life into giving you what you want, when you stop begging it to make you whole, it starts responding in ways you never could have planned. Because now, you're aligned. You're not operating from fear or absence. You're not waiting for someone or something to complete you. You're living as if you already are what you've been looking for. And Watts is clear this isn't about positive thinking. It's not about denying reality or pretending bad things don't happen. It's about meeting reality without armor. Showing up fully. Letting life unfold without dragging it where you want it to go. Because when you stop demanding control, what you get is presence. He compares life to music. A performance, not a problem. It doesn't have a final destination. No one listens to a symphony to get to the end. You're in it for the rhythm, the harmony, the dance. And when you forget that, when you start obsessing over the final note, you miss the whole point. This is where so many of us get stuck. We think the goal is to arrive. That when we finally get the relationship, or the job, or the status, then we'll be able to rest. But Watts says, what if you didn't need to wait? What if this right now is already complete? And once you start living from that place, the chase loses its grip. You can still act. You can still build, create, love, contribute. But you're not doing it to become enough. You're doing it because you already are. There's no tension in that. No anxiety. No pressure to prove anything. Watts also makes it clear, the mind is clever. It will invent lack just to keep itself busy. It will fabricate problems so it can keep solving them. But you don't have to believe every thought you think. You can see the mental noise for what it is and choose not to build your life around it. Instead of chasing proof, you act from truth. You stop waiting for the external world to validate your worth, and you lead with your internal knowing. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first. It might feel unfamiliar. But that's only because most of the world is still caught in the opposite cycle. Strive gives, achieve gives, still feel empty gives, strive harder. Watts cuts straight through that cycle. He says, you're already it. The you that's searching is the same you that already has everything. The problem isn't that you're incomplete. The problem is you haven't realized you're not. When you let that land really land, it changes the game. And over time, As you start to let go of all the old conditioning, something interesting happens. Life starts to meet you where you are. Not where you're pretending to be, not where you wish you were, but exactly where you are, because now you're aligned. Not from effort, from presence. It's subtle, but it's powerful. You stop trying to force things. Instead, you move with clarity. You wait when waiting feels right. You act when action arises naturally. You don't panic when things take time, because you're not operating from neediness. You're not hoping the next thing will fix you. You already feel full, even when the outside hasn't caught up yet. And this is what Watts meant when he talked about surrender as a creative act. Not passive, not lazy, creative. You are cooperating with life, trusting its timing, letting your role unfold instead of scripting every detail out of fear. And that's where the real magic lives. Because once you stop being in your own way, things that once seemed out of reach start moving toward you. Not because you hacked the universe, but because you got in rhythm with it. You're not resisting. You're not doubting. You're not waiting to feel whole. You're living as if you already are. And life reflects that. This is the message Alan Watts kept coming back to over lectures, books, conversations. That fulfillment is not the reward for doing things right. It's the foundation from which right action flows. And the more you let go of trying to control the process, the more that foundation becomes clear. You become patient, not because you don't care, but because you know. You don't need to be frantic or prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to force things into being. Because the things meant for you don't arrive through fear. They arrive through alignment. Even uncertainty becomes less terrifying. Because now, it's not a threat. It's a space. A space where inspiration, timing, and new paths can emerge. You don't need to rush to fill the unknown. You trust it. You live inside it without needing to escape. Watts reminds us that surrender isn't a collapse. It's clarity. You're no longer reacting from fear. You're responding from peace. And when that peace is real, not forced, not faked, it echoes. You notice things you didn't before. People respond to you differently. Opportunities open up. The world mirrors your state, not because you manipulated it, but because you dropped the noise and showed up as yourself. Whole. Already. The irony, of course, is that letting go feels like the hardest thing in the world until you actually do it. Because we're trained to hold on, to push, to fight for what we want. We're told that surrender means failure, that if you let go of your grip, you'll lose everything. But Alan Watts turns that on its head. He says it's not until you release that grip on identity, on control, on fear that you finally begin to experience the depth of life that was always there, waiting. You begin to see how much energy you were spending trying to hold reality together, like it would all fall apart if you stopped steering for 1 second. But Watts reminds you that life has its own intelligence, its own rhythm, its own flow. And when you stop demanding that it obey your timeline, it starts showing up in ways you never imagined. This isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. That's a misread. It's about alignment. And from alignment, you take action. But that action comes from a grounded, clear, peaceful place, not from anxiety, panic, or pressure. You still show up. You still build, love, create, but not to become something. You do it because you already are something. That shift changes everything. Watts makes it clear that the mind isn't interested in this kind of peace. The mind thrives on conflict. It lives in loops. It believes that until something out there changes, you can't rest. So it keeps inventing problems, keeps scanning for lack, keeps chasing something that will finally quiet the noise. But the noise doesn't get quiet because the world finally lines up. It gets quiet because you stop listening to it like it's the truth. That's the power of Watts' teaching. It doesn't offer you new goals. It doesn't promise that if you do a B and C, you'll finally feel okay. It offers you something more radical. It says you're already okay. And the more you remember that, the less you need the world to prove it. You stop asking for signs that you're enough. You stop performing worthiness. You start living from the knowing that you already are. That kind of shift doesn't show up in big, dramatic ways at first. It shows up quietly, in how you breathe, in how you wait, in how you handle not knowing, in the way you stop reaching so hard and start listening more. And eventually, that inner shift creates an outer echo. The job you thought you had to chase now reaches out to you. The relationship that always felt just out of reach becomes possible not because someone changed, but because you stopped performing. The creative flow you were trying to force now comes easily because you're no longer blocking it with pressure and expectation. Watts said that the world mirrors your internal state, not metaphorically, literally. When you're tense, grasping, desperate, the world reflects that energy. People feel it, circumstances resist it. But when you're relaxed, open, And rooted in your own enoughness, things flow. That's not magic. That's resonance. We attract what we're aligned with. And when you're aligned with lack, you keep chasing things that can't fill you. But when you're aligned with wholeness, life meets you in that space. Not always immediately, but consistently, because you're no longer creating resistance. This is what Watts meant when he spoke of life as a musical unfolding. It's not something to conquer. It's something to join, something to express through. And that only becomes possible when you stop treating life like a checklist and start treating it like a dance. There is no final note, no last step that makes it all make sense. There's only the rhythm, the unfolding, the now. And the more you live from that space not as an idea, but as your reality, the more life responds. Not because you cracked some code, but because you stopped fighting what was already trying to happen. This level of presence doesn't mean life stops being messy. Things will still fall apart. People will still leave. Challenges will still arise. But now, your experience of them is different. You're not clinging. You're not collapsing. You're present. You meet life where it is, not where your mind says it should be. And from that space, things become possible again. Watts never said this path was easy. He just said it was true. And when you stop trying to outthink life, and start listening to it, really listening, you begin to remember something deep. You were never missing anything. You were just too busy looking to feel it. You don't need more proof. You don't need more success. You don't need the world to vote in your favor. You just need to stop postponing the moment where you finally trust yourself. That trust, it's everything. It's the fuel for peace. The foundation for creativity, the real beginning of manifestation, not through strain, but through surrender, not through strategy, but through alignment. You stop pretending, you stop performing, and finally you start being, not who you think you need to be, just who you already are. So if you're still gripping, if your knuckles are white from trying to hold it all together, just know this: life isn't asking you to prove anything. It's asking you to let go, not because it wants you to fall, but because it knows you'll float. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's something in your life you've been holding on to that maybe, just maybe, it's time to release? Share this if someone you care about needs that reminder. And if you're here for more grounded truth without the noise, hit subscribe. We've got more to uncover. And it's only just beginning.